Now, naming a range just means that you can jump very quickly to a location on your sheet or in your file indeed. You can also use named ranges to calculate with. So instead of it saying the hours sum of B4 to B7, it would say the sum of the hours range if I've named it. So in this example, I'm just going to take hours, rate and gross headings, and I'm going to name the cells underneath each of those headings based on that heading. So if I go into my formulas ribbon, I'm going to ask Excel to create those from the selection for me. So create from selection. I'm using the headings in the top row to name the cells underneath it. So I click on OK. And when I click away, I can now navigate to those using the name box. The name box is directly above column A, and it usually shows you the current cell reference. So there's the name box, top left there, and it shows me the cell reference. However, if I click on the drop down arrow, I can then navigate or jump to the gross figures or the range that I named for the hours and so on. Another way of naming a cell is, or a range of cells, is to actually do it more manually. So if I wanted to name the net figures, for example, I can select the figures that I want to name, click into the name box, and just type in net. No spaces allowed when you're creating named ranges, and just press enter. And I've named those cells. Right, so again, I can click on those and calculate or use them in here. If I just remove the figures from here, and instead I go and do my auto sum again, Excel now recognizes that that range of cells equates to the hours named range, and it will put that in for me automatically. If I put my sum function in, and I can't quite remember what I've named, all right, so I put the sum function in, it's automatically got it, but if I couldn't remember what it is, I can go to my formulas ribbon and I can say use in formula, choose it from there, okay, or there is a shortcut key as well, which we'll have a look at a little later perhaps. Okay, so again, it's choosing the rate. You do need to be aware that named ranges are absolute. If I go into my name manager, for example, I can see in here that I've got the gross, the hours, and this, the hours, for example, relates to this sheet, and the cell references absolute here, B4 to B7. If you can edit, you can create new ones in here directly, but if I delete a named range, am I sure I want to do that? I'm going to say OK. When I close out of it, I am going to get this name error. So you do need to be aware of that as well. Here on the count sheet then, this is a fairly substantial amount of data, which some of you may recognise, some of it at least. And it does go, there's quite a few rows or records of information. If I just jump down to the bottom, you see it goes down to 23,000 rows worth. Okay. What I'm going to do in here is I'm going to name some of the ranges so that I can work with them when we start looking to count functions and so on. I'm only going to do it from the operations group. So I'm going to select from there across to the comp status column, and I'm just going to do Control and my down arrow to select those options. So at the top there, I've got the headings are selected, and I'm going to ask Excel to use those headings in order to name the data underneath it. So from my formulas ribbon, once again, I'm going to say create from selection. And I'm using only the names in the top row to name the data underneath it and clicking on OK. Okay, so if I go and check on my drop down for my named ranges, I can see that I can jump quickly to the comp status range, but quite a few blank columns in there, blank cells rather. Or I could jump to my op name or op group range.